Hello there, welcome to another interesting edition of Standpoint. I'm Joke Lijadu. Nigeria is at the verge of another round of general elections, and the polity has in recent times been feeling the heat. Politicians have begun backdoor consultations, alignment, and realignment of forces in order to position themselves for the retention of their present offices or for gaining bigger ones. But this time, something different is happening in the mix. For the first time since the country's return to democracy in 1999, uber young and dynamic Nigerians are declaring their intention to run for political office. This crop of individuals say they are ready to take power from the older generation who for 18 years have failed to take Nigeria even close to the borders of the promised land. Spurred by the level of despair in the land caused by years of failed leadership that have left Nigerians in the dungeon, they are going all out with the hopes of stirring a political revolution that will birth a new Nigeria. I have in the studio two of such dynamic young Nigerians running for the 2019 presidential election. Engineer Matthias Babasado is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Matstrot Nigeria Limited, and he is a professional member of Institute for Service Excellence and Good Governance. Kingsley Chiedu-Mogalu is a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, a lawyer by training and political economics. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, some people say that young people, have, over the years, not taken responsibility. Would you say that now, they've suddenly woken up from their sleep, or how would you describe it?
Well, certainly. I mean, I think we can say that there is an increasing awareness amongst the young citizens of Nigeria regarding politics, and they are beginning to rise to their responsibility. We saw that, first of all, expressed in the campaign called Not Too Young to Run, and then they were successful in getting that bill passed. And then we've also seen it with an increasing number of young people indicating their aspiration for political office. So, but I think there are it's a very good development, I think, but there are also some critical questions that need to be asked about the development itself, because one of the things that sometimes happens, as we saw in the Arab Spring, is that there is a blooming of youth or youth activism or youth in politics. And if it's not carefully managed, if it's not strategically channeled, if it's not sensibly thought through, it could just be a flame that eventually dies. And we must avoid that. Yeah.
All right, Matthias, let me ask you, would you say it is about the age? Because many would argue that it's not about age, it's about ability to deliver. Is it about the age?
No, it isn't about age. It's about the fact that those that we have entrusted with this responsibility over the years have failed. It's about the fact that we have thousands and millions of young people on the streets of our country who are jobless. It's about the fact that politicians have turned this into a venture. Many people, in fact today, if you look at the most lucrative business in Nigeria, I see today, it's politics. Maybe next to it is drugs. So you see, you have a concept of governance and leadership, the people that we have in position of power over the years have misplaced the essence of governance itself. So I think what is motivating the people at the moment is, look, we're saying there's a better way to lead. Leadership is not politics. Governance is not politics. In Nigeria, what you see from one election cycle to another election cycle, all that happens is politics. There's no time for governance. And what we are saying is, we've seen how these things are working in other nations of the world. Why is it not working in Nigeria? So I think the motivation is not necessarily about age. It's about the fact that we have the ability to do these things right ourselves. We are exposed to all manner of information. We have access to all kinds of information around the world. So why can't we, if you have a situation where the banking sector is being manned by young people and it's delivering its result, if you have a situation where the telecom industry is being manned by young people and is delivering result, the entertainment industry is young people and is delivering results.
So,
So why
obviously,
can't we talk about
it's still about the age.
governance? No, I'm saying that it's not really, the focus is not on the age, it's delivering results. That is our focus.
Do you concur?
Well, first of all, the age matters in a certain way. Let me explain why. It is very important that a society regenerate itself. It is very important that leadership in every society should be regenerative. That is to say, it is transmitted from one generation to the other. But when you have people who have been in politics and in so-called leadership positions, because they're not actually leading, as Matthias points out rightly, they're just busy politicking. When you have people like that who have been in those roles since we were breastfeeding, still at it today, and there's a possibility that we and they will retire at the same time. Maybe in another 15, 20 years we will all retire, but they've stolen our future, essentially. Young people were told 30 years ago, you're the leaders of the future, when they were in school, waving flags at the people who are still politicians today. Up till today, those still people are still very much occupying center stage and misgoverning the country. So it is also about age. Because a society that does not regenerate its leadership levels lacks originality. There is no new idea that comes up. It's the same old way of doing things.
But do you not think that, you know, this is a product of the kind of young people that we have? You know, a lot of these politicians we are talking about now, at our age, at your age, are taking the mantle of power. Perhaps because they were responsible enough at the time. Would you not think that they are thinking that the crop of youths we have right now are not responsible enough?
No,
is that it?
I think at some point, the young people in this country actually got busy trying to survive on their own. So it's not about we being responsible. If you look at it, if you talk about being responsible, every single person in this nation is responsible for his own security, is responsible for his own education, responsible for his water, responsible for his road, and all infrastructures. And so the fact that at this moment, we have had it to our neck and we're saying enough is enough, it's not that over the years people have not been concerned, but we have given so much allowance to see that maybe, I remember what happened in 2015. A lot of young people were on the streets of this country, people clamoring for something new. And because they saw the combination of President Muhammadu Buhari and the vice president, and they felt, okay, maybe we might have something completely different this time around. But alas, here is where we are at the moment. So what I see at the moment is a clear call that, yes, we have given you guys the opportunity to deliver to us for this society, the kind of governance that we have seen other places, if not for anything. Let us see you making progress. But since this is not forthcoming, it's just natural that people will wake up. And that's why you see that today we have more than 20, 30 young people that have indicated interest to run for the office of the president. Now, sometimes, most times you can say that when someone is given a responsibility and he is not able to deliver, virtually everyone says, I can do better, I can do better. That's what you say, right? So it's more about we seeing the possibilities of we being able to proffer solutions to the things that we see, because the solutions to Nigeria are glaring. Even some of the things that we have as a problem, therein lies the solution. And the fact that the leaders of this country have deliberately shut their eyes to it, it's worrisome to people.
All right, Prof, okay, you wanted to add
I wanted to chime in and say that it's a very good development, yes. But remember where I began. I'm a very experienced policymaker and strategist.
I was going to ask you about that, but you can continue.
Okay. Now, I'm very interested that this new indication of interest in leadership by young people should not just be a flash in the pan. I'm very interested that it should actually lead to real results. And one of the practical things we have to understand today is that in the face of very strong incumbents, the young people will need to, as we go along in the coming months, coalesce their efforts around a unified candidacy to take the presidency. And therefore, you have to look at things like who will be the best candidate around whom all the rest can rally around. And if they win, or if we win, then it's a victory for all of us.
For the young people,
it's a victory for a class and a victory for a new way of governing Nigeria, a victory for a new thinking. And I think it's very important that young people also bear this in mind, that this is not an ego trip. You know, this is a serious business. So the fact that you're young in itself does not qualify you to be president. You have to have the character, you've got to have the capacity, you've got to have the competence, and you've got to have a track record that matches the level of the presidency. So these are the things that, as we go along, people need to discuss, people need to consider, and need to be very strategic so that we win a victory that is a victory for truly for Nigeria. Not just that people have gratified themselves by saying, oh, we are all running for president. And at the end of the day, the votes are so divided that it becomes meaningless. You know. So I think that's an important point to make. Yeah.
All right, now let me ask you, Matthias. Prof raised the issue of character and competence. Now, the number of youths we have in the country right now, how can we find character and competence, or can we find character and competence?
Yeah, absolutely, yes, we can. There are, you see, for a man to live in Nigeria for 40 years, and you must have gone through several processes, and for you to be able to pick up the courage to say you want to become the president of the country, you must have seen your worth. You must have been able to assess yourself and say, you know, I think I can do this. You must have been able to see the situation as well and be able to put certain things together and say, okay, I think I can give this a shot. So I think character, men that have the character, that have the competence, that have the experience as well. Because sometimes, again, we talk about these experiences, and I know that several times politicians have challenged us to say, what experience do you have to say you want to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? And I always have people that, look, experience over the years that politicians have, that they have put to use in the system, what result has it produced? Because that's the most important question. You can have experience in politics, and all the experience amounts to zero results. So what's the experience worth?
Yeah.
All right. So I think the key things that we need to look at is those that are presenting themselves that they want to become our leaders. Can we see your programs? Can we see your plans? Can we see the architecture, the implementation architecture of what you want to introduce to the society? Because we're not going to do SAC, APC SAC like we did before. Yes, we're going to do a strategic movement that focuses on delivering results. Yes. To the people, that every single policy that you will make would have to affect that child on the streets of Kano and that child on the street of Bayelsa. How does your policy have direct impact? We're all being, the social media has been agog about what the Gates said about the policy of this government. And everybody is making a lot of noise out of it. The truth is this. Policies in Nigeria are made to, policies, laws, and almost everything in Nigeria is made to protect the people in government. The people on the street of the country, what was for that? Nothing. So if you have your plans and you say, okay, this is how I will be able to implement my plans, then we all look at it and say, okay, this person, your plan is to go. And like Prof said, it's important that as we go along the path, we all come together at some point to say, you know, what's our best foot? And then we shoot forward. But it's not a generational battle. It's a battle to reclaim the country and let the people, the owners of this nation, have this true sense of worth of what it means to be a Nigerian.
No doubt, we've heard in various quarters that 70% of the population of the country are young people. And of course, that means that if we want to move forward, it's possible to get a young president just, you know, rallying these votes. But the question is, what is the percentage of this 70% who have their PVCs and who are voting?
Very good. You've hit me at where it hurts me most. As you may know, since for the past 3 months or 4, I have been, the Institute for Governance and Economic Transformation that I head has been running a campaign on the PVC, the Permanent Voters Card. People should get their Permanent Voters Card because it's not enough to complain. It's very important that we take our destiny in our hands. And so those millions of our young people, those 60 to 70 to 80 million young people actually need to take their future into their own hands. And the only assured way to do that is that if you're 18 and above, you must get your Permanent Voters Card. That's number one. Number two, that's your PVC 1. But I also argue for what I call PVC 2. Please vote carefully. Now, because you have to think very well in order to vote. Nigeria is now the poverty capital of the world. But that's true. We have the highest numbers of absolutely poor people of any country in the world. Over 100 million, maybe 150 million if you take the African Development Bank report recently, people who live on less than the equivalent of $2 a day. That's 600 naira. Now, that is what tells you how deep the mess we're in is. That is what tells you that if the current trend is not changed, we are heading for disaster. The future is bleak. Is this the type of future that I want my children to inherit? No. So young people need to become more exercised about these things, not just to complain and then spend their time, you know, just sounding off on social media, but they don't have a PVC. You know, if you don't have a PVC, please, don't waste my time. You're not a responsible young person. You're not a responsible citizen. One of the things that I will do if I become president of Nigeria is that I'm going to move a bill in the National Assembly to make voting compulsory.
Wow.
Oh, yes. I will do that. Because that is how to bring development. People must exercise their civic responsibility. Voting is compulsory in a few countries of the world, very few, like Australia. So this is what we need to do in Nigeria, because people are so busy chasing their day-to-day needs. And that's legitimate, but it is not enough of a reason for you to ignore the chance to shape your own future to become better. So just the fact that you're focused on every day, you're chasing your Gary, you know, but you don't know that you can actually begin to eat, you know, spaghetti and you know, really sumptuous meals and corn beef if you actually go and vote in the right type of people. That's what should concern our citizens.
Matthias, you want to say something to that?
Well, I think about the PVC, I think if you look at the statistics, over the years, the people that actually elect the leaders have actually been the young people. It's just the fact that most times the young people that do the elections, they are often maybe carried away by some form of sentiment. People come with different ideas and say, oh, this is the reason why you should vote this person.
Tribal.
Exactly. Now, but this time around, I think we can change the program. We can begin to focus on ideas. And this is, because it's hurting everyone now. We've all seen it that the fact that the president is Hausa does not mean that Hausa people are going to are having a better life now. And so I think what needs to be done is what is being done at the moment. There is massive awareness going on. I'm so excited that today in US there will be a mass rally for gun control led by 2 young boys, you know, and then the same thing can be replicated here. That we can have young people coming to say, you know, look, we've endured this for so long. The failure of governance and leadership in Nigeria. The issue that my particular issue with system of government in Nigeria is the fact that government focuses so much on those in power and nothing for the ordinary man on the street. And these are the ordinary men that they run to every 4 years to ask them for vote. So the question now is, can you take your destiny back into your own hands and elect people from your own street? A man who has been who has been on the streets of Nigeria, who has gone to school in the streets of this country, who father and mother does not have the resources to take him to school, but had to struggle through school and understand the pains that an average person in Nigeria goes through. This is the kind of person that will be able to feel the hearts of the people on the streets of this country and be able to bring out policies that will directly affect them. We're not looking for president. We are looking for a leader, because there is so much attachment to office in Nigeria that people neglect the responsibility that come with leadership. What we are saying is the time has come for all of this to be redefined. It is time to do a total overhaul of our leadership system.
All right, we'll go on a short break now. When we come back, the conversation continues. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Standpoint. We've been looking at the place of young people in the 2019 election. And of course, I have two presidential aspirants who have been in the House discussing with me, Engineer Matthias Sado and Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Thanks for staying with us. Well, some people say that young Nigerians are not ready for the mantle of leadership. Let's listen to this clip from a great scholar, Professor Jerry Ghana.
We mobilized for 8 years. Towards the end of that, we came up with an idea that, look, just clear off all these oldies, let that be a new generation. It wasn't a good experiment. Some were fine, but there was a huge disaster. And because maybe they were not prepared for it. We love the young people, but we got two major shocks.
Now, you heard that from Professor Jerry Ghana. Yeah. At the time, he was with the PDP, and he talked about non-preparation for the office. Yeah. Let me ask you, are young people prepared now?
They ought to be preparing themselves. I think some of them are prepared, some are not. But I think that it's a very important point we need to address, the question of preparation for leadership roles. One of the things that I have proposed is that all the political parties in Nigeria must send their members, or at least those among them who are aspiring for political office, through a scientific leadership training program. I've proposed this in my new book, Build, Innovate, and Grow. Big, my vision for our country. Because this question of preparation for leadership is important. Leadership is not something that is an accident. It's not something that is inherited. It may be, but it doesn't make you necessarily a good leader. Leadership has become a science, and you learn it by learning it. What is a leader? A leader is someone, especially in the political sense, who has the ability to envision, to inspire, to mobilize, to set a direction that others will follow. A leader is also somebody who is prepared to take calculated risks, to be able to move a society or an institution or any group of people he or she leads from point A to point B or to point C. So that's what leadership actually means, and it can be learned. And I would suggest that a lot of young people go through that process. So also part of leadership is acquiring, or part of leadership preparation is acquiring relevant experience. It is true that the politicians claim that they have experience, but their experience is the wrong type. Or at least they have not delivered anything with the so-called experience that they claim they have. And that is why young people now clamor for leadership, and rightly so. But I would also say that young people also have a responsibility to acquire the right type of leadership experience. Leadership in various fields of endeavor can qualify you to lead a group of people in public office, whether as a senator or member of the House, governor, or even president. You see, but it's helpful, I would say, that people who are aspiring for leadership, especially the ultimate level of leadership in Nigeria, such as the presidency, should have had some sort of public sector experience. Because the complexity of running a government and running it well is different, for example, from running private sector businesses. I know this because I've had experience on both sides. I have been a senior official in the government, but in an independent institution, not in the political part of the government. I was deputy governor of the central bank.
CBN, yeah.
And you know, that's a very senior level of leadership experience. And I've also founded and run my own company. And I've been in academia as a professor. So certain types of experience can round you out better to be a leader, I think, at a very senior level. So, but the basic thing is that people who aspire to leadership should go. And in the process of all these things, of course, I've gone through several series of leadership training. So, and this is something that I recommend for people who, young people who aspire to lead. The first step is to go for leadership training.
Matthias, what do you have to say?
Oh, well, I think, again, sometimes we miss up some of these things on the basis of what we see, the peculiarity of our society. Now, leadership, to me, it's more of your ability to be able to, like Prof said, inspire people. This is very important. Yeah. And with that capacity, because this is one of the major ingredient that is missing in leadership in Nigeria.
Yeah, it's an inspiration.
Your leadership in the aspect of, like Professor Jerrigan said, that they tried young people and it ended up, it was a disaster. I think they tried the wrong set of young people. And then sometimes these things are calculated to ensure or to just ridicule the young people.
Make young people look
so
bad.
that, you say these things happening around. But what we are saying is we have young people. The first step that a young person, you will see that a young person has matured for leadership is ability to step out and be courageous enough to say, I want to take up on this.
That's true.
This is extremely crucial. Now, if you have young people that are daring enough to say, you know what, we see, look, before we started seeing leadership schools, leadership institutions, there were leaders, great leaders in the world. Majority of them didn't have to go through leadership schools. They had this ability, they had the passion, they had the skill, they had the desire, they have the oratory skill to be able to speak to the people. Now, this is very, very key.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can acquire all the knowledge you want to acquire in leadership, and at the end of the day, you're still not able to deliver.
The important thing is that there is no perfect
One
formula.
size fits all.
Yes, there is no perfect formula. You know, leadership is a complex thing. And as Matthias said, there are several dimensions to it. Part of it is innate. It comes from inside you. Having that vision, having that courage. And he makes a point I agree with. The ability to communicate. A leader, ideally, in a society such as ours, that is very low down the ladder in development, and we need to pull our people up. A leader needs to be able to talk to his or her people. You know, it's important that we're able to engage our citizens in town halls, to explain our vision and the policies and how we expect to execute them, because a very important part of development is about the organization of people, moving in the same direction with focus. That is what brings systemic change. And for that to happen, a leader needs to be able to communicate this vision. I call it a worldview, as I've said in many of my speeches, you know, to the citizens, and co-educate the citizens about why we should all be going in this direction, why it's good for us, and how we're going to get there. So where that leader is not able to communicate to the people, where a leader is insular, removed from the people, there's a gap, there's no connection. There must be a connection between a leader and his or her people. That the people must feel the leader and the leader must feel the people. And that's a communication issue.
All right, earlier, Prof, you talked about, young people, putting their best foot forward.
Yes.
Meaning, rallying around the person who is probably the best fit for the job. Now, how feasible is it that, people who, like you said, have, gained the courage to come out, will now decide to abandon their own calling for someone else? How feasible is that? Let me ask you, Matthias, before I come.
First of all, what is the most important thing that motivated you to come out? Is it your personal interest or the national interest? Because this is where the key thing is. If we are discussing the national interest, then individual interest should take the back seat. Yeah. You have been able to reach a lot of people to follow you, to say, let's get this done and all of that. Of course, sometimes in fact, most times it's not going to be easy for you to walk back and say, this is a decision we've taken for the best of the country.
I'm going to ask you now, are you willing, if you find someone who is more perfect for the role than you are you willing to?
At the moment, as it is at the moment, I stand as one of the best candidates in the country, the best aspirants in the country.
You find someone who's better, will you?
This is something that would be done. If at any point we're sitting down together and I've analyzed that, okay, look, and this one I've advocated for. I've been reaching out to quite a number of young people that are running for offices, and I'm saying, look, young men, let's all come together. Let's rally around a particular point and say this is what we want to achieve. The most important thing is the vision I have for the country. If I see someone who bears the same vision with me, and I see that, oh, look, the qualities in this person, I said, oh, let's see how we can work together. And now in working together will be a decision it will not be a decision that I can take on television and say, this is what will be done.
All right, Prof, let me put you on the spot. If you find someone who, can do the job better or has your kind of vision, are you willing to step down for the person?
Certainly, it's not about my personal ambition. This, for me, seeking the presidency is not an ambition. It's a vision. There's a difference. I am pursuing a vision that I have for our people. I'm not pursuing a personal ambition. I don't need to be doing this. I was living a very comfortable life. I've achieved a lot in my life. The only reason I'm out here is because I'm depressed about the level of poverty in this country. So therefore, it's about the people of Nigeria, and it's about what is in the best interest. So obviously, if I did not feel that I was competent or had the right character or vision, I would not be stepping out. But that said, of course, there must be that willingness for people to make sacrifice if and when the time comes. And that is what also can be a great indicator of leadership ability. So the ability to sometimes swallow, subordinate yourself to the collective will. I think it's very important as a qualification for leadership. But there's something I want to say in this. We're at a time when there are a lot of people offering an alternative. People in Nigeria today stand the risk of becoming confused. The recycled politicians are a wasted generation. We should not waste our time on them. Now, what is the alternative? You now hear a lot of things. Third force, fourth force, fifth force, seventh force. Nigerians love these catchy acronyms.
Catchy phrases.
And we like to look at things on the surface. I would say we put our eye into the water. Let me give you a story. If you're diabetic, you should not be drinking sugar. Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. But you can become confused. Sprite is not water.
Obviously.
Good. You can be drinking Sprite when you shouldn't, but it's a clear liquid. But it is water that you should be drinking. There's a difference between Sprite and water. But Nigerians may run the risk that when a lot of people are coming out and saying, oh, we want to remove the government in power, they may not differentiate properly between Sprite and water. I consider my vision to be water in the circumstances. But I also believe that there's a lot of Sprite running around. So we should be very careful. Yeah.
All right, now let me ask you, and I'm going to go back to this administration. When President Buhari came on board, we all had a lot of confidence in the fact that it would redeem the country. The slogan change was mouthed by everyone, and we believed in it. Yeah. Now, believe it or not, we have young people in that cabinet, and still Nigerians are almost at a standstill as to what the government has delivered to them. Let me ask you what you think about, you know, young people. Yeah, they are working with him. How would you say they've led the country so far?
Well, so far, I would judge the administration poor, as a matter of fact. And the reason is this. It's simple. President Muhammadu Buhari was one person that was given the opportunity to reconcile this country. We are so fractured, a nation that is disunited. There's no way we can fight and as a common team. When he came on board, he was given the privilege, the opportunity to bring all the warring facts together, fractures together, to see how we can start the process of rebuilding the country. But unfortunately, he wasted so many of his months with using body language economic policy. And one of the things that you must not allow yourself to be caught doing in this country as a leader of the country is to wait for people to begin to suggest to you what to do. You must come with a clear vision of what to do. Yeah. I think the man, President Muhammadu Buhari's vision and dream was to become the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and nothing else. Mm. From winning the election is where the job begins. And this is what was missing. So I see some people that promised all manner of things, refineries are going to work. Look, it's sad to sit down at this point and see the amount of unemployment on the street. People are talking about the fact that inflation is going down, and do you know why the inflation is going down? It's not because there is an economic policy. It's because people don't have money to buy goods. Mm. The purchasing power of Nigerian citizens have gone down. So it's not like, so there's no any magic about what has been done. So let them not celebrate anything, because Nigerians are getting poorer every single day. So really, the administration.
Let me just take you up on what Bill Gates, you know, said recently, yeah, as to this government placing particular emphasis on infrastructural development, yeah, instead of human capital development. What do you think? Do you buy his idea?
I not only buy his idea, it is an idea that I have been espousing. But, well, maybe I'm not Bill Gates, so it will not make as much, you know. But the fact is that people like us have been saying this for years, yeah, that what develops a nation is human capital. That's what we have failed to learn here in this country. We're not investing in mental infrastructure. We're busy trying to say or to pretend we're investing in physical infrastructure so that we can win elections. But you're not building the human capital that will actually build the economy. Mm-hmm. When that is the missing link. And therefore, of course, I agree with what Bill Gates said. Now, the truth about leadership and about Nigeria's situation is that a nation and a nation's economy can never progress beyond the competence or the incompetence of the people. Ultimate political leadership. Okay. Let's just be very clear. And this is why I say that the next generation of leaders in Nigeria must be intellectually equipped for leadership. If you're not intellectually equipped, you will not understand that point Bill Gates is making. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it is that intellectual insight, the knowledge base has to be stronger than what it is today in the political class. The political class produces from its members as the ultimate leadership, the weakest among them intellectually. And that is not correct. So you need to be able to understand economics. And when you understand economics, you need to be able to understand economics in the right manner. I just gave the Bullion lecture at the Center for Financial Journalism this past week. And I was saying that there are 5 things that Nigeria must take care of in order to move our citizens from poverty to prosperity. The first thing is that foundational philosophical worldview. Nigerians must have something that they all believe together. It's the basis of their existence, and it is what they're looking for, number 1. Number 2, you have to have an economic philosophy. we are practicing capitalism, but we don't understand capitalism. We do not understand that you can't have capitalism that is successful without capital. So we're all running around. The capitalism is just benefiting a small group of elite businessmen, but most people are poor, and you call yourself capitalist. Meanwhile, you go to the Western world, capitalism is benefiting people at different strata of the society. So the third thing is that we must have an economy that is driven by science, technology, and innovation. You see what I'm saying? And you cannot have that if you're not focused on human capital. Because what creates the next and the fourth requirement, which is what we call economic complexity, the ability to manufacture goods that are complex and export them instead of exporting crude oil and importing refined petroleum products as we do in Nigeria, which is, by the way, in my own view, the medical definition of madness. You know, so for you to be able to have this type of economy, you need human capital. So at the end of the day, human capital is where it all begins. You see what I'm saying? Because human capital gives you what we call in economics productive knowledge. Knowledge that can produce. And then the fifth thing we need is vibrant and strong institutions. So when you're led by people who do not understand these five things I'm saying, who will look at me and say, that man just a blow grammar. That's why we are poor. We are led by people who are anti-intellectuals. They don't care about ideas, but ideas rule the world. Go and look at all the countries that are making progress. They are led by people with ideas. Why would you be like them if you don't think ideas are important? That's the problem we have.
Well, we'll go on another break now. When we come back, the discussion continues. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is still Standpoint, and of course, we're looking at the Nigerian youth and the 2019 elections. Now, Matthias, you know, let me ask you what you think about Nigeria. I know that, like Prof said, most countries have their own philosophy. What is Nigeria's national philosophy for you personally? What do you think about the national philosophy of this country?
Well, you see, speaking about national philosophy or national purpose.
What does this country even stand for?
What does the country stand for? We are supposed to be the capital nation of the entire black race, the nation that is the most prosperous black nation in the world. We are supposed to be that country. That is what I believe it's our calling as the purpose for this nation, because in the words of Nelson Mandela, he said the world will not respect Africa until Nigeria ends that respect. That the black people of this world look up to Nigeria as their source of pride and confidence. So it is not about Nigeria alone. Nigeria exists as a nation that is supposed to be the pride center for the entire black race. So in my view, this is the nation, the capital of the black people of this world that I want to build as the president of this country.
Prof, what about you? What's the national philosophy of Nigeria for you?
Yes. Nigeria is a country of diverse people, brought together by the amalgamation of 1914, created as a federation in 1960. And we should turn our diversity into our strength and build an economy that is based on entrepreneurial capitalism that seeks the welfare and the prosperity of our 180 million citizens. We should aspire to be the new Asia, to rise like Asia has risen, and to challenge, or at least command respect within the Committee of Nations. I agree that we, as the most populated black nation on earth, should be the pride of the black race. In my book, Build, Innovate, and Grow, in chapter 2, where I talk about a worldview state, I state this worldview very clearly.
And so, Matthias, let me ask you what you think is the greatest impediment to Nigerian youth in government, and how do you think we can begin to, overcome this impediment?
Well, I think the most crucial of it all is the fact that our political society or the political street is filled up with all manner of junks. So for that reason, you find it difficult to define those who have been able to establish themselves as unique points, unique figures that actually can bring about change. I've been called up by so many young people that want to run for offices. Many of them cannot adequately communicate themselves to you, but they want to become leaders because everyone has seen the political space to be the next drug. Everyone wants to go to that place to go make money. That is where money is being made. You see, the politicians, when I was in the bank, the politicians were referred to as high net worth. These people that are exposed to resources, they control resources and all of that. So this field is filled with all manner of people. But I think that this is being redefined because such light is on ability, capacity, competence, your experience as well. Questions are being asked. I've been thrown up. People have asked me, okay, can you give us what your plans are for the young people and all of that? And when you put these answers on the table, they dissect, they look at it and say, okay, fine, this is good, or this one is not good for us, and all of that. I think at the moment, the road is clear for every young person that is ready to run on this race to come on board to do that.
Prof, there's the place of stomach infrastructure and party structure, and young people will have a problem there because the kind of political system we have in this country is almost monetized.
Yeah.
How would young people begin to scale this impediment of, oh, I don't even have a party? Did you have a party yet?
The first way to address this is that young people should begin to organize themselves politically inside political parties. And I recommend political parties that are youth dominant or youth oriented if we want real generational change in this country. If young people want to go and be running errands for recycled politicians as quote unquote youth wing, they will not get anywhere because youth wing itself is a concept of marginalization. So I believe that you should have political parties that are peopled predominantly by young people, but they're not excluding anyone. You can have an old wing if you want, or you can have an advisory board of people who are rather advanced. That's fine, and they're all welcome too. But I would say to young people, this is the first path to your redemption. For so long as you're busy putting yourself to run errands for recycled politicians, you have no future.
And let me ask you, do you have plans to take on any political party?
I'm a member of political party. I'm a member of Action Democratic Party.
Okay, ADP?
Yes, it's a political party that is youth driven, and so I welcome Prof to run on the same.
Do you have a party yet?
Same party because he doesn't have a party yet.
Yeah, well, I have deliberately. But this is where my experience comes in. Let me answer the question.
Okay.
The reason I will, of course, pick a political party platform on which to contest for the presidential elections soon, and I'll be making that announcement in the next few weeks. The reason I have not done so, especially when I announced at the World Press Conference on February 28, my aspiration is this. In this country, everybody talks about platform. All these so-called platforms have all just been vehicles for the acquisition of power for the sake of power. They don't stand for any ideology. There's no philosophy. You don't know what they stand for. So I decided to put the vision out first. Look at the vision that I'm putting out before you. Look at me, Professor Kingsley Morgan, and decide, look at me from head to toe, and decide whether I can be your president or I'm qualified.
Whether your vision aligns with...
Exactly. That is the most important thing. Before you start talking about platform, it is good candidates that can build good parties. A party that has no vision can never produce the right type of candidate, and that's why we have had failed leaders. So I wanted to change the narrative. Having, I think, succeeded to some degree, I can now decide which party to join. And I can consider Matthias's invitation and other invitations that I'm having, because a lot of parties are talking to me to seek the candidacy for the presidency on their platform. But we're evaluating all this. Yeah.
All right, seeing that 2019 is just right, by the corner, let me ask you what you envision, what you're hoping to see, at the elections in 2019.
You're going to see massive turnouts, particularly of young people. Those who are tired of hearing, you are the leaders of tomorrow. They want to take their destinies into their hands. You're going to see the young people make it almost impossible for politicians to rig elections. You're going to see a lot of intellectual debates.
I was going to take on the debate thing. We've seen our leaders. Yeah. President Buhari, for instance, didn't show up for any debate. Yeah. Olusegun Obasanjo didn't show up for any debate. Yes. What is this? Is it that the generation is afraid of intellectual discourse?
I think the reason you see this is because the purpose for which power has always been sought in this country is not based on a vision. It's always based on some ethnic ascendancy, some religious ascendancy. When Obasanjo came out of prison in 1999, there was a decision by the military to pacify the southwest region of Nigeria. It was in that context that his presidency became a reality. When the Buhari was running, or for the 3 or 4 times he ran, most of his comments indicated that there were certain motivating factors that were not exactly what should be the motivating factor for someone seeking the presidency. So it was again an agenda that was clothed around ethnicity, the North. So you keep having these divisive types of thinking. And I hope that from 2019, the presidency will be zoned to competence. The presidency will be zoned to vision. The presidency will be zoned to capacity and character. That's my hope for 2019. And I hope that we will see the young people act on this.
And I'm sure 2 of you will be open to the presidential debate. You'll be showing up.
You can count me on.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. We have come to the end of another exciting edition of Standpoint. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can watch a repeat of this edition by 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. on this same channel. I'm Joke Lijadu. Enjoy your weekend.